Alright, so if we look at 3.2 logarithmic functions, the basis of a logarithmic function is that if y equals log base a of x, if and only if x equals a to the y power. So they kind of go in like a zigzag motion. You take your base, then you go to the other side of your equal sign, and that becomes your new exponent. And the value inside your log, the x, becomes what it equals.
Momentarily distracted, it should not be continually distracted.
Okay. So, if we look at y equals log base 2 of x, that is the same thing then as 2 to the y x, because you take your base, then you go backwards, and then you go forwards. Okay, kind of in a zigzag pattern. And so if our x equals 32, then this is the same thing as 2 to the y equals 32.
And then we just solve for y.
And we solve for y. So we're obviously trying to get bases of 2, and we've worked on common bases before. So 2 to what power is going to give me 32? 5. Okay. So 2 to the 5th power gives me 32, which then tells me that y equals 5. Okay, so let's do that again. So given y equals log base 3 of x, so that tells me that 3 to the y equals x. So then if x equals 1, then 3 to the y equals 1. And on this one, there's not a way to get common bases because you can't get common bases of 3 when you have only a 1, and you can't get common bases of 1 when you have only a 3. But we do know that any number to what exponent equals 1? 0. So we know that y has to equal 0. Okay, let's do this one. Y equals log base 10 of x, and x equals 1 over 100. Okay, so that tells me 10 to the y equals x. So if x equals 1 over 100, then 10 to the y equals 1 over 100. So if I want to get bases of 10, what exponent do I need to use with 10 to make it 100? Squared, right? So 2. Okay, and then if I bring that up to the top, what happens to my exponent? It becomes negative. So I know that 10 to the negative 2 is the same thing as 1 over 100. So I get 10 to the y equals 10 to the negative 2, which tells me that y equals negative 2. Okay, let's do one more. So we're given y equals log of x, and x equals 10. Well, anytime it doesn't have a base, like in this case where it doesn't have a base, it's like it has a base of 10. So that tells me that 10 to the y power equals x. So then if x equals 10, then 10 to the y power equals 10, which tells me that y is an exponent of what? 1. Perfect. Okay, so do we feel okay about this? Okay. So the second part of what we're going to look at then is the properties of logs. Okay, so the first property of logs that we need to know is that log base a, any base of 1 is always going to equal 0. So anytime you're taking a log of 1, regardless of the base, you know it's going to equal 0. Also, if your base and your number match, like log base a of a, that's also equal to 1. If you're taking log base a of a to the x power, where you've got a number to an exponent, then your exponent becomes your answer. And the reversal of that is true. A to some log of the same base is equal to that x. And then finally, you can set logs equal to each other if they have the same base. So log base a of x and log base a of y, you can set equal to each other because that tells you that x is equal to y. Alright, so if we look at log base 4 of 1, what do we automatically know that's going to equal? Because we're taking a log of 1. 0, perfect. That comes from our first property. Any log of 1, log base anything of 1, is always going to equal 0. Okay. Alright, so if we look at log base square root of 7 of square root of 7, where our base and our number are the same, what did we say that, what was going to happen there? No.
Yeah.
No. It's 1, yep. So, when they have the same base and the same number, it's always going to equal 1. Okay. And then the last thing we're going to look at is 6 to the log base 6 of 20 power. What did we say that this log and the base actually do? They cancel. So then my answer would just be 20. Okay, so all you're going to do today is do some evaluating of logs, and you're going to so you're going to work on evaluating them and using some of the properties. So you can do 234, 23 through 44.